Hey everyone, my name is Jason, and according to my watch, there are 4.5 hours left until Donald Trump is inaugurated in Washington as the last freely elected president of the United States. Not in a good headspace about that. So I'm making a video. This video is for people like me who want to do stuff but are still finding themselves getting dragged into arguments on the internet or just wasting a lot of time managing their time inefficiently in terms of politics. This is a video that's going to reconsider a common cliche and some common communication strategies in order to help you spend your time a little bit more wisely. This video is also about magic. No, not that kind. Yeah, that kind. Gets a little bit weird. So, there have been a lot of think pieces since Trump won the election on November 9th, and I don't know about you, but I read a lot of these things, and I don't know why I kept reading them, because every time I finished reading one, I walked away with one of a number of unpleasant feelings. Anger, spite, incredulity, despair, or this new emotion. I don't have a word for it yet. It's kind of a dark calm, inspired by the perhaps unlikely, but I think rational fear that I might never be able to go back to America again, or that I might die in a nuclear-powered fireball. But recently one hit the mark. I read a think piece that I was happy to have read after I finished. And I think it was because the thesis wasn't trying to prove anything to me. It wasn't trying to convince me that Clinton lost the election because liberals were too mean, or that white lash was inevitable because of Obama's policies or whatever. The article had a point, but you could accept that point or reject it and nothing would change either way. It's kind of like a coupon for a free ice cream at McDonald's. You could take it or you can leave it. Your day is not going to change either way. The article is called Apocalypse Whatever. It was written by Tara Isabella Burton. It was published at reallifemag.com. There's a link in the description. I think the article is fantastic. You can read it if you want. In a nutshell, this article starts with the etymology of a 4chan phrase, praise Keck. And then it goes on to build up a kind of a three-part thesis. First, that alt-right political shitposting and the people who do it share much in common with people called ironists back in the 19th century. Second, that a large chunk of modern-day white nationalists are engaged in a quote-unquote safe discourse war against conventionality and political correctness, which they see as having unfairly restricted their quote-unquote freedom, quote-unquote culture, or quote-unquote totally useless penises or whatever. Whatever they're angry about, it's vaguely defined and total bullshit. Thirdly, that the culture that's springing from this movement, alt-right, 4chan, white nationalism, Gamergate, etc., this cultural circle jerk, sociologically speaking, bears a lot of resemblance to religion and to magic. Here, let me quote the relevant bit. From this perspective, it doesn't matter whether Keck is quote-unquote really a chaos god. Sociologically speaking, he might as well be. Likewise, meme magic, to the extent that it serves as a record of cultural engagement, is real too. So too, the quote-unquote reality of ubiquitous fake news sites, which, while being wildly inaccurate propositionally, nevertheless govern events. Just look at the controversy over Pizzagate, to an extent that renders them functionally significant. Narratives no less than an account of the fall or salvation that govern who we are. Now, I like this idea because it suggests that there are different ways of looking at the world and that those ways aren't just bound by knowledge, but by perspective. This idea that there is no such thing as magic makes sense from a commonsensical point of view, but the author of Apocalypse Whatever suggests that, maybe we can learn something by taking a non-commonsensical view of things. I should also point out that I'm not suggesting that people go worship Glycon the snake god or start assuming that the alt-right is some kind of cult. Just stick with me for a little bit here. For example, I took what I would like to consider a scientific worldview to the 2016 presidential election, and that worldview was espoused by, professional statisticians and journalists and a bunch of people. But that worldview left me very vulnerable indeed to the upset Trump victory on November 9th. I knew a lot of things. I knew what the polls were saying. I knew America's history and obsession with morality. You know, there were a bunch of reasons that Trump was going to lose and Clinton was going to win in a landslide. Obviously, I was very wrong. And so this article, Apocalypse Whatever, has, intentionally or not, given me some interesting insights into how I can sort of protect myself from future shocks. And I would like to share those insights with you now, however meager they are. Part 1. Don't tell a troll there's no such thing as monsters. Okay, point number 1, let's start with the easy stuff. Just don't assume that you can convince anybody who is in the alt-right or flirting with it to leave that group. You've probably heard the phrase, don't feed the trolls. I want to revisit that idea from a slightly different angle, because the phrase itself has become a little cliche, and so it's harder to appreciate what it's trying to say, I think. So let's use our imaginations. If indeed there were such a thing as trolls in the world, and I'm not talking about online trolls, I'm talking about big, angry, hairy monsters that live under bridges and, you know, accost travelers for money or death, I would posit that if you ran across one of these trolls, and he was asking you for money under pain of death by mastication, you would not respond to the situation by debating with the troll the existence of monsters. I suggest that you wouldn't do that because the fatal flaw in your argument is the fact that there is in fact a monster standing right in front of you. You wouldn't take that line of argument because it is self-defeating. What you would probably do instead is, you know, stay very far away indeed from roads or bridges where there be trolls. That would be the smart thing to do. The same thing is virtually true for virtual trolls, who are certainly humans like you and me, especially me since most trolls are white and male and around my age. The reason we compare these actual human beings to make-believe monsters is not because these people aren't full of complexity and worthy of love. It's because the particular, like, sociological geography, let's say, of where we interact with them reliably triggers certain behaviors in human beings that make those people not worth interacting with. You don't feed trolls because trolls can eat anything, even you, and they never get full. You don't tell trolls that there's no such thing as monsters because trolls are monsters and they will not believe you. And you don't engage in debates with the alt-right on the internet, not because you're not up to the task or because you're not smart enough to counter all their points, but because you are never actually engaged in a debate with them. It's one-sided. It's an unwinnable conflict. The natural contours of this kind of engagement are set up against the person who is trying to make a rational point. And engaging with these kind of people robs you of your time. And in the age of Trump that we're heading into, that time is very valuable. Not just for you. It's not just valuable because it's your time. It's valuable because you could be using that time to help your country, to help, you know, the hashtag resist people. We need your time more than online trolls need your time. Okay, so maybe that first point was obvious, but it leads to my second point, mind quakes. Okay, point number 2, and this connects back to the quote from the article on magic a little bit ago. I think that maybe pretending that, like, in a hippie sort of, like, we're all connected, man, sort of, you know, belief in the ether or whatever, you know, mental connection between human beings, that might be a kind of practically useful thing to believe in for the next couple of months at least. That's a crazy thing to say. It's just that a lot of people are going crazy these days, and, you know, just not thinking about the details in terms of, you know, psychology or sociology or historical movements or, you know, the news, just thinking about it in terms of magic. You know, there's some crazy thing going on, you know, in the ether up there. That might be a practical time-saving device for dealing with the madness that you see on TV and in the news and in the grocery store and at family get-togethers, you know, for the next however long. And so here's the insight. In addition to alt-righters, you really also shouldn't engage in political discussion with you know, quote-unquote normal Trump voters. You know, normal, good people who maybe voted for Obama once or twice and then voted for Trump. Don't engage in politics with these people. It's not worth your time. And why not? Because people aren't in their right minds right now. I'm not, you're not. People who voted for Trump sure as hell aren't. I'm calling this phenomenon a mind quake. It's shorthand for making me not worry about, you know, why the hell people are acting so crazy. You are welcome to use this metaphor if it helps you. I call it a mind quake because just as an earthquake happens when a lot of pressure builds up between, you know, tectonic plates and one of them cracks, a lot of energy is released. The same thing has been happening in American politics for, you know, years, over 20 years now. Okay, obvious question, what negative forces have been building up in American politics? God, take your pick. Pepe memes. 8 years of birtherism conspiracies against America's first black president. 16 years of disingenuous Fox News headlines. Tens of millions of dollars spent on congressional crusades against Hillary Clinton on Benghazi and her email server. Geez, oh man, like there are people on TV this week who are excited that Obamacare is getting repealed so that they can, you know, have their Affordable Care Act coverage in peace. Like, you know, it's insane. And if you think about this insanity as coming from, like, you know, tens of millions of rational human beings, it'll drive you crazy. Or maybe not, maybe you're just stronger than me, but it's driving me crazy. And so I need some shorthand to like shove all that news under the rug so that I can focus on more important things. And so I am just assuming, for the sake of peace of mind, that there is a major natural psychological disaster happening over a wide swath of the world, and you know, if it's a natural disaster, it's out of my hands. It's nasty, but there's nothing I can do about it. And talking to people about, you know, you've got the facts wrong and I'm gonna teach you what they are. Assuming that that is a useless waste of energy is helpful for me because it saves me time and it really, really profoundly reduces my frustration and hair pulling out whenever I do not engage in these kind of conversations on Facebook or with family or friends. And that brings me to part 3. Okay, so metaphors aside, what is this video about? You know, it's about how to better spend your time. If you're serious about, you know, helping out with this #resist movement or whatever it's going to be called, then, and if you don't want to just be an armchair philosopher for the next couple of years as the world falls apart around you, then you need to start jealously guarding who and what gets access to your time. Political change can be sparked by words, but it isn't brought to fruition by words. And it's certainly not brought to fruition by retweeting words, by the way. To build that spark into a flame, you need friction. And political friction is time plus energy. And this is a serious call to action, not from me or this video, but from President Obama and Secretary Clinton, and, you know, hundreds of years ago from Ben Franklin, when allegedly he was asked what kind of government was made, he answered, a republic, if you can keep it. We have to work hard. A presidential administration's actions and time of its workers are just inherently more valuable and more powerful than the efforts of the people working outside of the walls of an administration. This is what a system does. It amplifies human power. So I really want to warn against, you know, people who think maybe they can relax for the moment because you know, Trump's approval ratings are so low going into his inauguration. If you're thinking that, then, you know, I think that you are dangerously misreading the volatility of the situation that we're in. We need less people tweeting their hot takes and more people tweeting or uploading videos of their calls to Congress. We need less people arguing with strangers on the internet and more people talking with strangers in real life via town hall or phone call or clipboard campaign or volunteering. That's how valuable your time is from now on, because that's how much we have to lose if we don't learn how to successfully organize against this administration, and fast. Don't sit back and assume that Trump is going to be impeached. Don't relax for a minute thinking that he'll be out in 2020 because he's going to be so unpopular. Like, I hear people talking about this in real life and on the internet, and it drives me crazy. I swear I have no idea where that idea comes from. Like, did you not watch TV in 2016? Did you not read a newspaper? Were you not surprised in November? I'm telling you, it seems a safer bet to me to believe in magic than to believe that the American system will sort out a Trump administration without a good deal of, fucking sacrifice and pain. By us. Congress isn't gonna do it. So if you've been looking for a kick in the ass, then please hear me. It is your personal responsibility, and I would argue it's your duty as a citizen of, if not America, then the imperfect but gradually improving global society, to manage your time wisely, to get to work. 3 hours and 35 more minutes until Trump is inaugurated, as of this recording. Do what you can. Make the world a better place. Support the people who are trying. And get to work.